Can you think of anything else?
Your dick has changed.
Has it?
Thought you should know.
Since 4 years ago.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Creators Uncovered. Well, this one could be called Creators Recovered because you're back.
Yeah.
You've got sweet Anita with us after about 4 years.
It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I think.
It feels like a blink.
Yeah, for sure.
Shush.
I mean, 2020's been in the middle of that, so we had COVID, which was a really strange thing. I know it's a heavy topic, but I guess we can start with that. Like, what was that like for you? Obviously, you were in the start of your streaming career.
It was great for business.
I can
Terrible
imagine.
for the world.
Yeah.
But like everyone was at home watching streams, so suddenly everything exploded. I never intended to be in front of the camera, never. So I was like, people will get bored and leave, and they didn't. And like I was still reeling that I had any kind of audience when we last spoke in 2019. And now, like I'm even more shocked because they're still here, and I've been here doing this for 5 years. But during COVID, I had like a captive audience. So I was just like, where are you gonna go? So like I ended up with loads of people flooding in, and I was playing Among Us with like loads of really amazing people I never thought I'd get to meet and stuff. And yeah, that was kind of like a crazy time for my streaming life because everything seemed to stand still and explode at the same time.
I was just thinking, like, talking about amazing people, who are you dating from the Sid Men?
Oh, well, according to Sid Men's audience, apparently every single one of them.
All of them?
All at once.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because I ended up going on Sid Men Tinder, and funnily enough, that was just as COVID was like, there was rumblings, but there was no lockdown. Like people were like, there's this flu going around, and I didn't really hear much of it. It was like going around on the news, but I wasn't watching the news. I was traveling up country. So on the way, KSI messaged me. I didn't have any idea who he was. And was
Nice.
like,
Who are you?
yeah, he just messaged me on Twitter, right? And he was like, hey, do you want to come and do this show with us? And I was like, yeah, I'm going that way anyway. I'm sure I'll join whoever you are.
Yeah.
And like I turn up and it's like this really big fancy studio. And there was these big lights on me and everything. And I was just like, whoa, this is a much more bigger thing than I expected it to be. And after I came home from that, everyone was like, have you heard of this thing called COVID? And like, I came back with a really nasty cold as well that wasn't COVID, but I was like dead. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, it's really serious. And I was like, uh-oh. And then for like a good month or so after we recorded that and it went live, every teenage boy in existence on the entire planet, it feels like, came in and goes, are you still dating the Sid Men? Which one did you choose? You know, because they just think that like the Sid Men Tinder thing was like a documentary. And like
Finding love of the Sid Men.
yeah, exactly. That's just how that's the mating procedure of humans.
Yeah. It was making me laugh when you said the other day that when you get recognised in the street, a lot of the time it'll be people from the Sid Men and they'll be asking straight away like, are you still dating such and such? Or...
Yeah, it's amazing. And like I literally had that the other day. I took my friends to go for a like boat trip to see dolphins and we were waiting and I went and got a friend some water because he said he was thirsty, ran across a car park, got it. On the way back, I was wearing a hat. Because I like change my appearance when I'm not streaming and stuff so that people don't like bother me. And these two young boys must have been about 14, 15, were like, you sweet Anita? And I was like, what? Who? And I totally played dumb because I was like, I don't want to be photographed here. I don't want like, because you get stalkers and it's a security issue. You never want to know, you never want anyone to know where you are at the time that you're there. Like if you ever see an Instagram model posting things like, hey, just on holiday at this place, that was like 3 months ago, I promise you. Like they'll never update live where they are. So like, I was like, I don't need these guys taking a picture and like putting it somewhere.
Of course, yeah.
So I was like, who's that? And they're like, do you have Tourette's? And I was like, no, what? And then I went, and I was like, uh-oh. And
It's kind of hard thing to be like, no.
Yeah. So like I immediately ran off and they were like, yeah, it is you, it is her. Like I could hear them shouting in the background and they came over and like passed under the water and they're like, what was that about? And I was like, nothing, let's get on the boat.
Wow.
I love how that one pop just,
Ruined
reveals who you are.
It's very iconic at this point. I think people will know it's you straight away as soon as they hear that.
Which reminds me when we was at TwitchCon in the toilets.
Yeah.
They heard you in the toilets and then you had a queue. I was waiting for you outside and then it just took ages for you to get out because they were queuing.
They were queuing
Yeah.
at my cubicle, even though they were empty cubicles, and I wasn't sure why. And they were like, "Are you sweet idiot?" They'd heard me tick through the cubicle, so they were like, "Can we take a picture with
What
you?"
we here? Where is she?
I was like, "Can I wash my hands first?"
Well, speaking of TwitchCon, that was roughly around the time of our last episode, our last interview.
Fuck off.
And that was your first gaming event, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was my first convention.
Wow, that's really cool. I bet there's been a lot since then.
Oh yeah, I've pretty much been to most of them since then, like all of the TwitchCons, pretty sure of
Nice.
it. Which was interesting. San Diego is beautiful.
I was going to say, but did any stand out? I suppose San Diego probably.
To be honest with you, France, and because I got to see like several million dead bodies, which was really cool.
That's going to need some explaining.
I was just going to say, yeah.
We can't leave that one.
So there's the French Catacombs in Paris.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I was so proud of myself because I don't plan anything, I don't do plans, but I still managed to actually call up in advance because with the Catacombs, they're fully booked all the time.
Yeah.
And then the earliest you can pre-book is 2 weeks ahead of time. You have to call at the right time and you have to do it just in time to get ahead of everybody else to get a slot. And then I arranged it for the exact time that I was up there at TwitchCon, and it was so cool. Well, you're not allowed to touch anything, which is really dangerous to tell someone with Tourette syndrome.
Yeah.
And you can go to prison and you can end up with like thousands of pounds of fine. So I was just like terrified. And then there was this lady and she had like this folder with photos and stories, and she was wandering around. She was obviously local because she had this thick French accent, and she was like, "And if you look here," and like she was talking to people, and I came over and started listening to her and following her, thinking she was staff. But she didn't work there. I was just following some random lady around and staring at her. I felt so bad.
Just a very knowledgeable French woman.
Yeah, I came very prepared. So that was really, really cool.
That sounds
Do
awesome.
you find that, like you say, when someone tells you not to touch something or like,
Yeah.
There we go. That
up.
answers that question.
Shut up.
I guess that does, trigger it more, I guess. That was really good timing. But
That's perfect. You don't even need to answer that.
that was the answer.
So San Diego, what you were saying, that was a beautiful location.
Yeah, that was absolutely gorgeous. And there were rays in the water and it was sparkling and sunny, and there were so many drunks. Like,
Nice.
yeah, like I found a random drunk guy just passed out on the grass, and I was like, "Oh, free friend." And I picked him up. I was like, "Where are you headed, buddy? Are you okay?" At first, I was walking and talking. I was recording a YouTube video at night after drinking with my editor, and we thought we'd come across a dead body because there was just a guy laying face down in the grass. And I was like, "Oh no." And because like my editor is a good person, he immediately turned the camera away from the dead body. And so like I immediately was like, "Oh, are you okay?" and started speaking to him. And as soon as he started talking, we just escorted him. He said he was at this hotel, so we took him all the way to this hotel, and he could barely stand. And then it wasn't his hotel. And we just sat there in the lobby hanging out for a while, and eventually we called him an Uber and got him home. And I never thought I'd see that guy again. But incidentally, years later in Paris, I was like,
No.
you lived! You got home!
So he was a Twitch streamer or like
He
part
was-
of the Twitch community?
He was part of the Twitch community, yeah.
Okay.
Speaking about events, I noticed you did the Streamer Awards. That must have been a unique experience.
I've actually done the Streamer Awards twice now. I
Twice.
don't mean to flex, but
Well, it's a good flex.
yeah, but it was fun. The first one, I was allowed to present an award. He messaged me and was like, "Hey, would you like to present an award?" And I was like, "Sure, I've never done that before. If I've never done something before, I'm probably gonna give it a go."
Why not try it? Yeah.
Exactly. What could possibly go wrong? And I ended up presenting the award to my tits instead of the people. And then I read out several different names, and one of them was OTV and one of them was OTK.
A bit similar, yeah.
It gave you a hard one, didn't it? Really?
Yeah.
That's unfair, really, isn't it?
I feel like they stitched me up because I totally read the wrong people then, and that was the next blunder. So I was like, fuck it, and I just showed the card to the screen to show
It's
who
this
really
one.
won. Yeah, this one, please. And then they came up and I nearly hit Asfend with the award because like if I'm holding something, I'll probably swing it around as a tick.
Of course,
And I was
yeah.
like really trying to control it, and no one seemed to notice. And I told Esfand after, and he's like, "You should have hit me with it. It would make
He
good
can
content."
take it. He's a
yeah.
big dude. Like.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that was the first time, and then the second time you were on the red carpet, I believe.
Yes, I was then interviewing people and just asking them things. And I was so prepared. I wrote all of my questions. Well, I had some friends while I was having a few drinks, and we brainstormed some questions the night before. And then I read them like 5 minutes before we got started and was like, I can't use any of these. These are so horrible. Like some of them were mean. Like some of my friends were like, go on, say this. He'll laugh.
Just
He'll laugh.
insult this streamer.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not doing this. Oh my God. So like I had to come up with the questions on the spot and I couldn't think of any. My brain went blank. So I just started sniffing people and telling the camera like, this is what they smell like. And I was like really honest as well. Like some people smelled like warehouse or like crafting paper. Others smelled like really fancy perfume. Yeah, like, and like, I was like, oh, why do you smell so salty? You smell like the ocean. And they're like, it's sweat, I'm terrified.
Fair enough.
It turned out well, surprisingly well.
It's a really good idea, especially one to come up with on the fly. Like, I can't say the first thing to my head will be like, smell them. But it's a great idea. Well, I suppose not necessarily just at the Stream Awards, but in general, is there any particular people you met that left like a lasting impression on you in these sort of past 4 years or?
So I was playing Among Us with Terry Cruz's son and I went to the bathroom and Terry Cruz came in and was like, hello, how is everyone doing?
That's awesome.
And I did not know. So I sat down and had to take immediate. I was like, would you like a fisting? And immediately he was like, anyway, guys, gotta go. Have a really nice game. And so that's the only thing I've said to him.
Wow. He's probably trying to keep that Bratton friendliness, wasn't he? He was like, oh, I'm out.
Wait, so you've not even spoken to him other than just that?
Just offering him a fisting.
Oh, okay. So that's what he probably
Kind of cool to leave it with that, though. It's like the one thing I've said to Terry Crews, and I'll keep it that way.
Yep. Yep.
Just trying to think who else you've worked with, because obviously 4 years ago, yeah, I guess you hadn't really worked with anyone because you never really went to any of the events and made connections with other streamers. I guess it was all mostly online.
It's a blur. Like I've done things with Mizgif and XQC and Talia Mar and like Corpse Husband and just like all of these people that I never thought any of these people would know I exist. And you know, it's really been really interesting to meet so many people who, you know, have had such a huge impact on the scene. And I feel like I haven't learned anything. I still have no clue what I'm doing. I found out how many TikTok followers I have 3 minutes ago. I had no idea. So like, I'm not keeping a track of anything. I'm not really paying attention. Everything's been unplanned to this point. I mean, I don't really have any expectations with numbers because I feel like you don't have any control over that.
Yeah, of course.
And I think like if I gave people one tip, when you turn into a grown-up and you're like responsible for your own life, just don't pay attention to things you can't control, honestly. Because you can't control people, you can't control how they feel about you. And if you try, they'll just dislike you more.
Yeah.
And I don't control whether or not people want to see my content. I can only make it, really.
Yeah.
So in order to stick to doing what I authentically love doing, and in order to make sure that I'm doing things for the right reasons, I think the less I pay attention to the numbers and the more I pay attention to loving what I do, the better everything feels.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There we are. That's good streamer advice for any streamers watching.
It definitely is, because it's working.
Yeah.
And the content
But
is
it is
still
a
great.
good, mentality to have, I think, because, you got to enjoy what you're doing. Why be sort of grinding for those numbers when, like you say, it's out of your control? People only follow or subscribe because of you, and you should just be focusing on you. So
you have to focus on your mental about this kind of thing as well, because I'm sure it can affect you in so many ways. Speaking of that, the last time we spoke, we talked about your sort of like that mental health was something really important to you. And I know at the time we were talking about you have a lot of things going on in your Discord that's to do with sort of helping people out with potential mental health issues. So I wanted to follow up on sort of like, has that grown in any way and changed in any way?
I still raise money for like mental health charities and stuff, but I also have like a fund that I just have so my old therapist totally changed my life, and then I stopped seeing her years and years ago. But back when I saw her, there used to be this fund where if you couldn't afford therapy, then there was a fund where you could pay what you could afford and the fund would make up the rest. And that's how I was able to see her. So when I left that last day where I didn't need to see her anymore, I was like thinking to myself mentally, if I ever make enough money, I would love to pay into that fund. So I rang her up and I was like, hey, do you still have that fund? And she was like, no, it doesn't exist anymore. And I was like, okay, let's make it again. And at the time, my rabbit had just passed away. His name was Nudge. So we called it the Nudge Fund. And basically, I put some money aside for people to draw from to get therapy if they can't afford it, and it's really helping people, which is cool. And then I told my stream about it, and they pay into it too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, we have like our community has just built up this massive pot so that people can get the help they need. Because in my tiny little town, there are a lot of people who struggled, especially during lockdown, especially with layoffs and everything, and could not afford any kind of mental health help. And as well, the lockdown really mentally affected a lot of people.
Definitely.
So it was really good to be able to keep that going and like kind of revive that old fund and make it a thing. And yeah, aside from that, I always make it a big target to raise money for like Rise Above the Disorder, which is a charity that does basically a similar thing, but all over the world. So obviously I loved that. And yeah, we have a Discord channel with where people can help each other and talk to each other when they're feeling low, which I think is like really important. I'm still gonna do plenty of stuff in the future for it, because I feel like growing up and ending up being like essentially a professional head case, I think it's more than appropriate to be doing this kind of thing.
That's awesome. That's really
It's
cool.
actually really nice what you're doing. I think more people should be supporting each other like that. I think
Something that affects absolutely everyone, so
and
it's
like
not
mental
something
health,
you could.
I think as well is people don't always have the money to get that support, and
Your
it does
money.
really like you just struggle getting that help because you can't afford it. So it's super
It's
nice.
tough to get help in so many ways, isn't it? Like it's hard enough just getting it if you do have the money, but the money obviously being such a stopping factor. And just knowing as well, like you say with the Discord, having people who you can talk to on there and knowing that someone's there to help you out, even with the money or with anything. I think just knowing someone's there to help is always like such a massive help to people.
Absolutely. Interestingly enough, we had like a really well-loved member of our community on my Discord pass away recently. And everyone loved him. He was so friendly and so kind. And his family reached out to us to let us know that he'd passed. And so we made a little like channel on our Discord server to say goodbye to him.
Oh, wow.
And that had so many responses and so many stories. I just did not know how much he was involved and how many people he'd touched. And his family had been so worried about him because he spent a lot of time alone in his home, and they thought he had no friends. They thought he had like quite a lonely, sad existence. And then when they saw just how much people loved him, how much people missed him, how many different stories of like, things that he'd done for them that really changed their lives, they were so happy because they had no idea that he was like, he had this big community behind him right up until the end. So like, even though it's kind of a sad story, I think it's beautiful that we have these spaces and that like Twitch and streaming can like produce these like pockets of community for people who don't even know their neighbors.
Yeah.
And I think that's just beautiful.
Definitely. Like you say, sometimes I feel like it can sometimes come across in a negative light to be, on the computer all the time or whatever. But for some people, it's like the difference between they may have been on the computer alone all the time if they weren't in these communities, but being able to talk and form all these relationships is so important. And I think that's a great example of the real world effects that these online communities can have in a positive way. So yeah, I suppose, so you're going to be building your first PC tomorrow here, I believe?
Yeah.
How confident are you feeling?
That laugh just says, oh.
Yeah, I've never built a PC ever.
I can totally empathise, like as someone who works at a place that builds computers, I'm not very good at building computers. So, but I hear it's very easy.
I think it's easy when you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And Anita is not going to have a clue.
Aren't you going to make it harder for me as well?
Yeah, might put a blindfold on you, tie your hands
That might make it a
up.
bit harder, yeah, just a little bit.
So yeah, it won't be the normal sort of building experience. It's not what our technicians would normally be doing.
Yeah.
But we thought
Okay.
we'd add some fun elements into it.
All jokes aside, you're in good hands here. Whatever goes wrong, I'm sure we've got someone who can fix it, sort it out in some way.
Or take the blame.
You'll take the blame, yeah. All in all, we'll end up with a PC at the end of it. That's one thing. That we
Whether it
can
works
say.
or not, that's
yeah, that
another
might
matter.
not be.
But we'll see.
Here we go. So what's your favourite game?
All right, so I love first-person shooters.
Okay.
Counter-Strike 2,
I need to give that a go.
you do.
Yeah,
Did you play CSGO at all?
I actually, when I played it for the first time, it was in a tournament.
Wow, okay, that's brave.
these are the kinds of situations I often end up in, and I'm always surprised when they go okay.
Wow.
To be quite honest with you.
Just perform well under pressure.
Yeah, that's called deadline mode. I have really bad ADHD. It is a symptom of Tourette's. So if there's a deadline, I will do better than if there isn't one at all. So that was good. Having a deadline to pick up the game definitely lit a fire under my ass. But then I like Apex, but I also like Palia, which is completely a complete. Apex is where you kill everyone, and Palia is when you try to keep everyone alive and well fed and give everyone gifts.
Two extremes.
Yes, exactly. But Palia is destroying my life because it's like really engrossing.
Okay.
And I have to come back and water my crops like every an hour is a day in the game.
So is it a bit like a farm based? I've seen little things about it. I don't really know that much.
It's kind of like it's like if Stardew Valley and Fortnite overlapped. It's kind of it's like if someone built Stardew Valley in Fortnite. You don't shoot or hurt anyone except deer, but like the graphics and like the environment and the way you walk around and stuff is similar. And unfortunately, I've enlisted and ruined the lives of many people in my community, and now we all play together and give each other gifts and things. I was actually, I have this weird habit and ability of manifesting men in maids' outfits.
Okay.
I don't know when this started.
How very anime of you.
Yeah. So like, I've had like men in maids' outfits clean my house and do chores for me and things like this. And when I was in Palia, I was just like in my house cooking food and like tending my crops, and then like 4 men in maid outfits just blasted in and started like cleaning everything, hoeing my garden, watering my crops and everything. I was like, yes, this feels right. This feels very natural. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna question it. I'm just like, fine. Yep.
I've just thought of something.
Oh,
4 years ago, I had to write an email out to everyone in this company to hide their bananas and just.
Oh wow!
Like,
the fact that you've been able to say that word right now is a big difference from then.
I had them on my desk yesterday when he came in, and I was like, "Oh God, I need." And then I remembered, "Oh no, it's fine now." Like it's
an interesting thing to talk about, I guess, is these like triggers and stuff that have changed over time.
It's quite common for people to have tics that are the same for years and years, or have one that only happens once. And so like tics can fluctuate, and you can have one that just bothers you all day, and then one day you'll realize you haven't said it in weeks. And so like, yeah, I used to have this really bad trigger for like, if I ever saw a banana, I'd immediately start shouting the word so much that, and my chat hijacked it so much that by just typing it in chat and everything, that I would make my throat bleed saying it so much and shouting it so much. So like, it was agonizing, and just like, it was really, really frustrating to have to be aware of it. You would not believe how many bananas there are just everywhere for no fucking reason.
As soon as you start thinking about it, they're everywhere.
They are, yeah. So like, to be free of that, I've started to take for granted just how amazing it is, and just not have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
But one day just before the stream, I noticed, because something came up on the screen, like I was scrolling through YouTube and it didn't trigger me, and like I was like, wait, and like I was thinking about it and I was like, has it gone? I don't want to think about it too hard right now. So I got on with things, and then like during the stream someone tried to trigger me and it didn't work, and I was like, oh my god.
That was so relieving to be like.
Yeah, I was like in tears on the stream, just like, oh my god.
So I remember you was like having to ban the word and just trying to. Yeah, all your mods had to vet like every image and every YouTube video that would be submitted to like some of your stuff, and
it was a really serious thing at the time, because I remember we sort of had to, I know you had to say to like your chat and stuff like, no, it's not a funny joke, like this is serious, like it's causing me physical damage, like.
Because people just think, oh yeah, you're just shouting out stuff, not realising.
People don't understand, I guess, some people, they just think it's a fun thing, but obviously it's more serious, it affects your life, so.
I mean, thousands of people had to be banned from my stream.
Yeah.
Because it just happened to coincide with when I went viral. And so like loads of people found out about it and thought it was really funny. So we had to ban so many thousands of people. And there are still people who make ban appeals like 4 or 5 years later who are like, I still watch the stream. I'm really sorry I was a dick that many years ago. Can I get unbanned? And I'm always like, no. So
you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard, especially if it's like younger fans from the viral stuff. They don't really understand the consequences, but I mean, the consequences are still there, so you've got to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of people with Tourette's in my community, and I don't want to risk them coming to harm if someone who's like that finds out.
Not taking it seriously,
Yeah. So it's just like, I'd rather create a space where like people like me can hang out and make friends and know that they're not going to be misunderstood, and they don't have to panic about it, because I know how valuable that is, and I never had that growing up. So having like a bunch of people with Tourette's who can just hop into a VC, know everyone in that VC knows what Tourette's is and isn't going to hold it against them.
Yeah.
And for them to be able to just play games, make friends, and just be like anybody else for a change is so beautiful. And I'm so glad that, you know, we could have that space. So if like someone got banned for tick triggering me like years ago, I'm still like, nah, I'd rather not risk contaminating what we built
100%.
here.
It's totally worth
Yeah.
it, and you know, it makes total sense. Is there anything sort of coming up that you're particularly looking forward to? Any big things or big plans for the future?
No, I haven't planned any of this. I have no idea what's happening the next hour, let alone the next year. I actually met up with a content creator who has like the next 3 years of their content planned. And they're like, what are you planning? And I was like, I've never planned a thing in my life. And they're like, how you made it this far? And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, it seems to be working, so it's a good plan.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching another episode of Creators Uncovered. It's been amazing to talk to Sweet Anita again. I'm really excited to see what happens with the partnership going forward.
Fuck off.
Please like, comment and subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.